What's up, DNYT Nation? Welcome to another video today. I got a quick little 30-minute session that I'm going to put in. Don't got a whole lot of time today. Going to start off with a Texas rig. I've got a 6 Sense Clout black with blue speck on a drop shot. It's kind of like a hybrid setup. It's a Texas rig on a drop shot. And it's been pretty effective for me, so that's what I'm choosing to use today. And I'm right here at Big Lake Park, where I've caught a lot of fish. Probably I've caught the most fish here out of all the spots that I've fished for in the Plano and surrounding areas. The water is really muddy today, and so the visibility is 0%. I can't see an inch through the water, so I can't really do a whole lot of sight fishing today, but I know where they are historically. So I'm just casting at those spots right here off this little pipeline, hoping for a bite. And while fishing a drop shot method is a little bit slower than other forms of fishing, but for this particular body of water, drop shot seems to be the most effective here. I've caught a lot of fish on this method. And I know even though it looks slow right now, I was getting some little small bites here and there, but I can only imagine they were probably dinks because they're really small bites and they weren't fully committing to the worm. Now this spot I'm casting to right now is right in front of me. It's the first pylon off of the pipeline. And historically, there's always been a lot of fish that stack up on that pipe. But for whatever reason, there was just nothing there today. I think it mostly had to do with the storm that we had yesterday. It was a monsoon of a rainstorm, and it only lasted about 20 minutes. But it was enough to raise the water up to the top of this wall here. And you can see if you look down the wall how tall this wall is. The wall from the water to the top is probably about 3, almost 4 feet. And the water depth right there is about 3 feet, almost 4 feet. So the water raised really high, really fast. And it was pushing debris the opposite way of what the current is now. So you see the current is running from left to right, but the day before it was running from right to left because the water was just coming in and it was going towards the spillway at the left inside of the frame. And I was really hesitant about coming out today. I was actually talking to one of my buddies yesterday. He was asking if I was going to go out, and I told him no, because I said, you know, a lot of times after these rainstorms, the water's so muddy, you don't get a whole lot of action. And a lot of times I end up wasting my day out there, regardless if it's 30 minutes or an hour. But a lot of times once I get out there and I haven't caught a fish, that's when I put in my longer sessions where it's like an hour or 2 hours before I catch that first fish. That's just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you find them really fast. Other days you're grinding, pitching, casting, looking for the spot, trying to get the right angle. You'll see I change angles quite a few different times, but I only cast a couple times to each spot. I don't spend a whole lot of time casting to the same spot over and over and over again. If they don't hit it within 1 to 2 times of casting, they're probably not going to hit it at all. And that's either because they're not there or they're just not biting, but most of the time it's because they're not there. I am really kicking myself, though, that I didn't bring my action cam today. I actually was on my way back home from a job and on my way back, I realized what street I was on, and I was like, oh, I'm only a couple minutes away from the spot. Let's go check it out and see what it looks like the day after the storm. And to my surprise, it looked pretty fishy. I mean, even despite the muddy waters, I mean, it looked as fishy as any other day I go out there. And literally, as I'm like making all these casts, I see carp jumping all over the place to the right of the camera where you can't really see it. It's off camera. And I was actually like, man, I was kind of second guessing myself, like maybe I should have pulled out the carp rod today, you know, maybe I would have got more action on the carp today. But I actually didn't really think that the carp were going to be out today because of the storm yesterday. A lot of times when there's heavy rains that cause the waters to rise as high as they did, and there was such a strong current, a lot of times those fish get pushed out and they don't come back for a couple days. Like, there's been plenty of times where, you know, it was a light rain, and I felt like, okay, I need to get out there the next day because when it rains, there's not a whole lot of action. The fish are being distracted by all the rain hitting the water. But to my surprise, there was actually quite a bit of carp action going off to the right of my camera, which makes me believe that I should be out here tomorrow morning looking for a lunker carp, because let's just face it, man, as fun as bass are to catch, carp just fight way harder and way longer. And so when it comes to sport fishing, I think it is actually a underrated fish and should get a lot more respect than they do. Just go watch one of my past carp videos and you'll see what I'm talking about. At this point right here, I had probably had about 3 or 4 small bites, and my worm was starting to look really hammered. So I was really deciding, okay, am I going to try and throw this out there one more time, or is it time to maybe throw another bait on there? But I decided to give it another go. I like to get as much use out of my baits as possible. The thing I like about this creek the most is that it does present a pretty big challenge. It is always constantly changing. You know, I remember a few short months ago, we had a lot of timber stacking up on this pipeline, and it gave a lot of habitat to the bass. But then we had a big storm come through and push it all out. And it was like starting all over again. Now, granted, the bass came back, and they started stacking up on the pipes again. But then again, we'd have another storm, and it would push everything out, and it started all over again. So it's like every time you come out here, it's like learning the spot all over again. And while there are spots that they just keep coming back to no matter what, today they just were not on the pipeline. I mean, at least the big ones weren't there, because, I mean, I was getting small bites, just wasn't getting the bites I wanted. And finally, after about 10 minutes of pitching the 6 cents clout, I decided it was time for a change. Now I've got the white pearl and chartreuse freeloader from Crush City, which is a Rapala. And I will say, once I threw this on, I was definitely getting more bites. But they just, again, still weren't quality bites. They weren't committing. They weren't swallowing it. It's like they were just grabbing the tail. And it was really, really getting aggravating, because I really just wanted them to take it. I was really starting to wonder if the drop shot with the Texas rig was the route to go today. I almost contemplated switching to a jerkbait, but the issue was I left my backpack in my truck, and I just brought my small bag with a few different choices. And so I just kept on changing out until I found what worked. And I guess now that I'm thinking of it, that's kind of a spoiler alert. But you'll just have to wait and see. I've also had a lot of success with this particular bait, the freeloader, as a jerk bait, just using a 4/0 hook. But again, I left my scissors in the truck. I didn't really feel like going all the way back there just to re-rig. And I figured, you know, if I just keep on putting the time with a drop shot, eventually, with the right bait choice, I'll find the fish. Oddly enough, I usually bring 3 rods out here with 3 different options so I can just switch out really quick, you know, versus having to pull my old bait off and rehook a new bait. And a lot of times I'll have, you know, a jerk bait on one rod, a drop shot on another rod, a wacky rig on another rod, or sometimes I go with a Texas rig, a wacky rig, and a drop shot. Other times I'll feel crazy and have a crankbait on there, like a square bill. I've got some catwalkers, like top water. Got quite a few different setups. I do fish a jig in here once in a while, but I haven't had a whole lot of success on a jig for whatever reasons. I don't know. I've definitely sunk a few in the mouths, but I never seem to get them out of the water with a jig for whatever reason. The jig technique is definitely something I've got to work on. So I finally got tired of pitching at the pipeline and decided that it was time to make a move. And watch right here, man. I finally sink one and watch what happens. What?
I'm a small guy.
Small guy or not, I don't think the fish really took the bait all the way in its mouth. Otherwise, I would have been pulling him out of the water. And really, by the looks of the hook, it didn't even pop out of the bait. Along this side of the wall, I was definitely getting a lot more bites than I was over on the pipeline, but they were a lot of small bites.
He's small. He keeps on nipping at it.
Really, I think what it was is I was just finding your best friend, Blue freaking Gigi, that bastardo, playing with my emotions. At this point, I hadn't really casted to the opposite side of the pipeline, so I decided to give it a shot because, after all, it is all about angles and the proper approach. And I have caught plenty of bass on the opposite side of this pipeline. It really just depends on which way the fish is facing.
The small guys are playing around.
At this point, you can obviously hear the frustration of my voice. I've had quite a few bites since I've been here. Granted, we're only 15 minutes deep into this thing, but only having 30 minutes to put in, the time is just running out. I'm already halfway through my session. Now, this particular spot that I'm fishing right now, there is a lot of structure here. Not a whole lot of laydowns or timber or anything like that, but there's a bunch of boulders in the water, and a lot of the bass like to hold up right there and use it as an attack spot. So a lot of fish are caught right here. Now, if you notice, I am switching back to the opposite way again because I don't really like to cast down one side of the bank for too long. I feel like if you put too much pressure on the fish, they get too used to your baits, and it just makes it more easier for them to ignore them. I do remember one thing I noticed while I was fishing down this side right now is that off to my right hand side there was a bunch of bait fish schooling around right here, and they're more of a darker brownish color. So you'll see here in a minute I'm gonna do another bait change to try and replicate those fish, but I'm gonna use a much larger bait because I want to go for much larger fish. And now that I'm thinking about all these little bait fish, I almost guarantee that all these little small bites are probably the parent bluegills protecting all their fry. Watch this cast right here. 4. A little too close to the wall. I really shanked that one off to the right. I'm gonna have to call a mulligan for that one. Now right here, I'm about to cast to this pocket right here. It gets a lot deeper right here. There is a big pocket, and it's nothing but rocks and boulders under here. But it's a nice little pocket the bass like to hang out in. Keep an eye on this next set. This one gets my adrenaline going. I thought for sure I was on one the way it hit it. But again, I think it just nailed the tail. Keep an eye just to my left, and you're going to see a turtle diving under. He was going ham on all those bait fish down there. There's so much life in this creek, it's insane. Watch right in front of me. You see it? That was one of the infamous carps that I was talking about earlier. They go off like crazy early in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening right here. On the opposite side of the bank is usually where I carp fish, and that whole side right there is where I usually put my bait. Alright, it's time to make that bait switch.
Alright, there's a bunch of small bait fish out there that resemble these right here. This is a Rapala Crush City. So let's see what we can do.
As you can see here, I was instantly getting bit.
First cast, we're getting bites. Feels small though.
Now we're right around the 24-25 minute mark, and we still haven't caught a fish yet. We've had a ton of bites, but nothing big has committed yet. But that's about to change here pretty soon. Stay tuned. And if you're still here at this point, I want to give you a big shout out and say thank you for fishing with me and staying this far in the video. I really appreciate you guys. You're the ones that I'm out here doing this for. So I really appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. At this point in the game, we are about the fourth quarter. We are on last chances. And it was looking pretty grim right now. But I'm just going to keep on fishing because you got to run the shot clock out. You got to give it that full time, right? No matter how much time you got, whether it's an hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, you got to fish to the last minute. If you're wondering what I'm looking up at, I got a nice bit of shade coming over because a cloud covered the sun, and it was a nice relief for just a moment.
There we go. That's a decent one right there. We got a runner. Come on, stay on. Ugh. Yeah, buddy. That's a nice one right there. Right in the upper lip. Come on, settle down. You got caught. You got caught. You got caught, buddy boy. Huh? Yeah. Oh, and I don't have my scale on me, but that's a good 2.5 pounds. Almost. Yeah, I'm going to call that 2.5 pounds. That's a nice chunky one. All right, got this guy on the Rapala Crush City. Man, that's a good one. Hey, it's pretty close to 3. Huh? Look at that guy. He got me. Crush City. Yeah, freeloader. This is the one we got him on. This one's called the Sungill. So get you some. Also, if you guys are looking for some quality merch, go look in the description. You'll see all these hats, and actually it's tagged on this video too, so go check them out.